Got a new video coming up. But first, I'd like to thank my friend, Mr. Parker, for this very nice shirt, Dogfather shirt. It's quality, first class. Thank you, Q. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work, my friend. This next video, just like all the other ones, nothing meant or intended for any legal purposes. It's all history, knowledge, opinion, fact, fiction. All things concerning pit bulls are covered on my channel. And this is another topic. It came up, and it's come up before, and I've spoken about it. It's been written about. Everybody has their opinion on it. But it's basically, would you cull a dog that won't scratch? Now, throughout history, there's been dogs that didn't scratch. They would go at it all day long. Some of them had a lot of talent, a lot of athleticism, but they just would not scratch. And I've been asked several times, why do you think they do that? I have no idea. There's a disconnect there. They just won't do it, which is why in the past I always emphasize teaching or introducing or trying to influence my dogs every which way I could to prepare them for that competition. So scratching was another thing that I taught them. And I would basically have my sons stand a few feet away when they're pups and just scratch them to an object, a rag or a hide or anything soft, you know. From little puppies, just do it over and over repeatedly. And as they grow older, I did the same thing. And not only would I scratch them to an inanimate object, and it may even be a stuffed toy, you know, let them hit it and work it, or a rag, let them hit it and work it. But I would also increase the distance. So I'd start a few feet away. Then as as they learn more and more, I'd have my son just step farther away until he could be 25 or 30 yards away. And just scratch him, just get into that mindset of when I square you up, face you off, hold you by the side of the skin on the side of your neck, and I cut you loose, you go forward. Now, that doesn't mean that they'll scratch. It just, it enhances it, because I also had a litter of pups, and my memory was a little bit off, but the way I remembered is none of them would scratch. And they were very talented dogs. They bit hard, they were fast. They weren't real durable, but they were very athletic. And almost the whole litter wouldn't scratch. And no matter what I did, when a dog was in front of them, I faced them up, and they just would not go across. Now, if we scratched the dog to them, they'd continue fighting. And it reminded me at the time, and still does now, of what Howard Heinzel told me about Heinzel's Bambi. That's what he told me. Some people out there have been saying, that she was cold and this and that. That's not what he said. He said that she would fight all day long and kill your dogs, but she wouldn't scratch. That's the way my memory is of speaking with him. That hard biting within the family, not only with her, but she had a brother named Lark who was an absolute killer. And there's a picture of him. He has a dog spread eagle, and the dog's finished. Heinzel said that took about 15 minutes. And the picture's been published before. Maybe I'll publish it again. It's very graphic. But that family of dogs were known for their bite, and I could see where they could pass it on to Daibo and Lil and Arizona Pete. And not only that, but Daibo had a half-brother named Adolf. I forget his sire offhand, but it wasn't Daibo's sire. But the mother was the same Bambi. Adolf won 3 or 4 matches. I know he was handled by 3 or 4 guys. 2 of them were Jimmy Wimberly and Ralph Greenwood. The other one, that mind escapes me. So I know he won at least 3 rough fights, hard biter. So Bambi threw that hard mouth. And maybe because the dogs I had, they had that Daibo influence or that Bambi influence in them. Maybe that's where that not scratching thing comes from. So, but it's not just Daibo dogs or Bambi dogs. It's prevalent, or it's, I won't say it's common, but it's common in the fact that it doesn't matter what bloodline it is. Some dogs just won't scratch. Now, what I cull them from my program, and when I speak of culling, it's always about breeding. So the simple answer is yes, I would not keep dogs like that and breed them. I culled them from my breeding program. In fact, that litter where almost all of them wouldn't scratch, there was one female that I gave to a friend of mine, and she actually lost a match very game, and she would scratch. So he reminded me of that later, because I was telling people the whole litter wouldn't scratch. Well, I forget, there were 6 or 8 of them. So 5 or 7 of them wouldn't scratch, but one of them did. And she was a game female. I have pictures of her. I'll put her in a new book, probably. Mention that. The new picture book I'm working on right now. But there was one that would scratch, and she ended up losing game with my friend. So that's something that's in the breed. And like I said, the short answer is, would I cull it from my breeding program? Yes. Why? Because I consider it a major fault. Just like some dogs that quit, just like some dogs that are cold, just like some dogs that won't scratch, just like some dogs are deformed, just like some dogs have these major faults, what I consider major faults. Can they produce good dogs or even great dogs? Yes. But my way of thinking is that doesn't matter, because I can get great dogs without using dogs that have those major faults. And that's what I was trying to do a lot of the times in my breedings. That's what was on my mind. How do I eliminate as many major faults as possible? If it's something minor, it's not that big of a deal. If it's something that's prevalent, but I could kind of manipulate it or control it to some extent, like my dogs could be destructive. So I wouldn't breed 2 destructive dogs together. One could be destructive, the other couldn't be. Make a breeding, because that way at least it lessens the chance of that coming out. And a lot of times both dogs of mine weren't destructive, and I breed them. They throw dogs that weren't destructive. So that was my mindset. It's a major fault, and I wouldn't breed them. Just like quitting is a major fault, I wouldn't breed them. Cold dogs is a major fault, and I wouldn't breed them. The ones that can produce and do produce and did produce and will produce that have those major faults, those are exceptions, not the rule. So I don't want to make exceptions a standard, because it never works out, and it's proven not to work out, where if you keep those major faults within your family of dogs, they're going to come out more and more. They're going to become more prevalent. They're going to end up dominating. Just like if you heavily inbreeding, continue to do it, the major faults are going to be compounded, and pretty soon it's going to lead to the ruination of your family of dogs. That's been proven also. So when somebody says, yeah, but this dog was cold and threw, even Bambi, she wouldn't scratch, but she threw great dogs. Yeah, that doesn't mean you have to repeat it. And when someone says, well, if we hadn't bred Bambi, or we hadn't bred this dog that quit, or we hadn't done that dog that was cold, or whatever, we wouldn't have the dogs we had today. That's true. We'd have different dogs, maybe better dogs, if everybody had high standards and didn't accept major faults in their program. Some people think it's, you're a breeding wizard where you can make it work, and these traits skip a generation, and I know how to make, I know how to do this, or maybe this outcross didn't produce superior athletes, but they're good in the next generations for breeding. All that's true. So, but like I said, major faults, I eliminated them. And I'm not going to do stuff just because everybody else did it, or because these dogs with major faults prove to produce, because my answer to that is there's dogs without major faults that produce just as good or better. And you don't have those major faults that you have to deal with. So just like having dogs that are undershot, to a certain degree, I'm fine with it. To me, that's not a major fault. As long as they can close their mouth, as long as they can use their mouth, as long as they can bite however hard they're going to bite with it, I'm fine with it. It's part of the breed. It's been prevalent since the English Bulldogs were brought over. It may help in how they hold on and being able to hold on. But if it becomes too pronounced and the cutters don't line up, the canines don't line up, and the jaw is crooked and it's half an inch or 3/4 inch undershot, and they can't hold on, the holds slip out, and they can't bite and can't chew, now it becomes a major fault. So, just like anything else. A dog scratches slow, he scratches hard, and that's what I want. But they start scratching slow, and they start scratching slow, and you breed them, and they keep scratching slow and slower and slower and slower, to eventually they don't scratch at all. That hesitation or that slow scratching, it could be a strategy by the dog. It could be something just in the dog itself, one particular dog. But if you start breeding dogs like that, and they become, and it starts to take over, which leads to dogs quitting, I have nothing scientific to back that up, but it's just a hypothesis of if that's what leads to dogs quitting, them scratching slower and slower and slower until they don't scratch. Because in my mind, a bulldog wants to get over it. He wants to get over it as fast as he can and continue the confrontation. Being slow and hesitant doesn't click in my mind as wanting to get out there and get it done. Then that's what it would lead to, dogs quitting. So it's just my own weird theory, hypothesis, not even a theory. But I've had dogs that scratch slow and then they quit. Have I had dogs that scratch fast and quit too? Yeah. But again, I prefer that over scratching slow. Because I've had a lot of dogs that scratch hard as a rocket, fast as a bullet, that didn't quit. So those are my standards. Not everybody follows them. Not everybody agrees with me. It's not something I like to argue about, but if somebody wants to have a discussion about it and give their opinion and give their experience, because that's what I always fall back on when I talk to people. What is your experience? How many times have you done it? How many dogs have you had that did that or didn't do that? Or how many screwed up dogs physically, their structure's all messed up, that threw great dogs for you? Because again, those bad structures, if it's not too bad, you can have some great dogs. If it doesn't become pronounced, if you know how to breed away from it, where a bow-legged dog is not too bow-legged and he can still perform, still has strength and speed and mouth, that's great. But again, if it starts becoming more and more and more bow-legged, pretty soon they can't even stand. As puppies, they cannot stand up. They're flopping around on their elbows like their feet are flippers and not feet. That's breeding gone bad. So to me, it didn't matter how well the dog was bred. If it's a major fault, I'm going to cull it. And I consider dogs that don't scratch a major fault. So that's a little bit on that subject. Another quick short video in that series of quick short videos. What's your opinion? What do you think? Let me know. Thank you.